Good evening on this Monday, October 23rd evening. This is DegenWrestling Podcast. We got a ton of stuff for you today. Some news. We've got a topic that's all around video games because we definitely have not been playing Spider-Man 2. My name is Nathan. I'm here as always with someone who has decided to remain nameless. We've decided to call him Jimmy around the office. Hey, Jimmy, how you doing? Our condolences to the family and friends of Jimmy. I would like to now read his estate. Everything will go to Carl. Congratulations, Carl, wherever you are. Ben, how you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right. Um, so we're gonna start things off today with a bit of an icebreaker that is not about pancakes. Surprisingly enough, we actually got a response on TikTok and asking us for our top five choke slams. So to Jonathan Hackers, thank you so much for the comment, and we're gonna answer it live right here on podcast. Ben, are you gonna start or am I gonna start?
Yeah, sure. So I'll say my number five. You say your number five,
Yeah, let's do it that way.
and we'll go that way. Okay. At number five, I have Shane Helms' double choke slam.
At number five, I have the Big Show's choke slam.
Oh. At number four, I have the Big Show's choke slam.
At number four, I have Damian Priest's Paragon of Punishment.
At number three, I have Damian Priest's South of Heaven.
At number three, I have Shane Helms' Double Choke Slam.
Yeah, that makes sense. At number two, I got Undertaker's.
Nope. At number two, I got Taker.
And at number one, we have Kane.
Yes, we do.
Regrettably.
Why regrettably? He's got a really freaking nice choke slam.
Because having Kane on any list at number one is wrong.
Except for this.
It still feels wrong.
This is the one move he did better than Taker.
It still feels wrong.
To me, it doesn't. Like the choke slam in of itself just feels tough, mean, and nasty. And if there's one thing
feels wrong to have Kane rated over the Undertaker.
I respect it, but I don't agree. But we're gonna start things off with the news. So Will Ospreay's impending free agency, February 2024, has the wrestling world on pins and needles. Given the fact that Ben has marked out for him for years, not to the level of Sky Blue, but he still has.
I'm gonna say lies, but
And he's one of the few indie darlings I've heard of, seen, and liked. We've asked where he's going, and speaking in an interview with Metro's Alistair McGeorge, Will seems to be open to the idea of coming stateside, saying, quote, I mean, we've spoke about it more. I'm now open to the idea of stretching myself out that little bit more, as age has become more apparent to me and my body is hurting more and more. I'm open to all avenues. I've had a lot of talks with my friends about this, and I've spoke to the missus. Although we've spent so much money on our new kitchen, we are open to the idea of relocating to the United States. It's on the table. That's all I can really say. That means I'm open to all options going forward. First of all, shout out to Will. If you've ever been in the middle of a kitchen reno, it's a pain in the neck. So hopefully his kitchen reno was worth his money. Ben, I'd love Will Ospreay to come to WWE, but does he have enough clout to get a contract big enough and a schedule loose enough to spread his wings and be his best self there?
okay. First of all, why is WWE the first thought?
WWE is the first thought because the site where I got this off of WrestleZone had it at the headline: "Will Ospreay WWE bound?" Question mark? Question mark.
Oh, because see,
That's where I
AEW
got
is
it.
also stateside.
Yeah, that's why I look at it like WWE bound, because the reason that I would have him go to WWE over AEW is, no offense, he's done AEW before.
He has. He's wrestled a majority of the people in AEW, but
Yeah,
he also knows a bunch of people in AEW.
yeah.
But I could also see him going WWE side for the potential matchup with that has been getting teased on Twitter the past few years between him and Seth Rollins,
Oh yeah.
which would be really nice.
That would be like creme de la
I
creme of
Yeah,
matches.
no, I think he has enough clout to get a good contract and a pretty decent work schedule.
I think with Triple H in charge, he does.
Yeah.
If this were a couple of years back, I don't think Will would have gotten anywhere with WWE. I would say go to AEW for the love of God.
Yeah.
As I said, WWE is my first choice for him. He's got Rollins, but can you imagine him in there with Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes again? Like even some of the lesser known
Even those, I believe
guys.
he's faced all of them at one point or
Yeah.
another, too.
Even guys like Lashley or Lesnar.
Yeah.
I'd like to see those matches too. Will Ospreay is an enigma in of himself. I hope you're right. I really do. I want him to get everything that's coming to him.
Yeah.
He is fantastic. Now this is as reported by Wrestle Talk. Randy Orton's WWE return is slated for Survivor Series 2023. Merchandising has been approved on the WWE side, according to Wrestle Talk, and Rev Theory has released an updated version of Voices, which, if you haven't listened to, go listen to it. It is the '09 theme on crack. Ben, does it go down at Survivor Series? And if so, how would you see the Viper return?
Well, I hope it goes down to Survivor Series. And how do I see him return?
Yeah.
I want him in some kind of angle with Cody.
Okay.
That's basically it. Just makes sense.
I want him to go after Roman Reigns. I want him to go after Roman Reigns because sadly, I don't believe LA Knight is going to be winning the title at Crown Jewel.
Booker T thinks he is.
At least right now. Yeah, but Booker T also created a cardinal sin and ordered DoorDash while commentating at a WWE event. Booker T does not know wrestling as much as Booker T thinks he
Are
knows
you saying
wrestling.
you wouldn't do that?
I'm saying if I were a commentator, hell no. Hell no.
I don't know. That seems like something right up your alley.
Oh, by the way, shout out to DoorDash. Personally, I find them to be a good service. I just wouldn't do it if I were commentating a WWE event. And more importantly than that, Booker T shouldn't be commentating at all.
Booker T just shouldn't be commentating. Yeah.
That being said, however, I don't see LA Knight beating Roman Reigns. You need someone in there that makes people question it. Randy Orton is one of the only people who Roman Reigns hasn't defeated in this Roman 3-year bloodline melodrama reign of terror, etc., etc., etc.
I mean, he hasn't beat LA Knight either.
That being said, as much as I want LA Knight to win, I don't think he's gonna. Randy Orton, if you're going to have him anywhere, have him be in an angle with Roman and have him in a spot because he's got the clout, the history to scare the holy shit out of Roman Reigns in the bloodline.
Yeah.
Like,
you want to hear something that's really scary?
What?
If they want Roman to beat Hulk Hogan's record, all he has to do basically is retain at WrestleMania.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Not long after Mania, he'd beat Hogan's record, basically.
Okay, Terry, I've never asked you for anything. I've never wanted you for anything, but get back into WWE's good graces for the love of God. This is horrific. This isn't like the 80s where cable was not abundant and wrestling matches were a huge deal, like where you could feasibly
wrestle 400 days a year.
Wrestle 400 days a year. I personally have never asked you for anything other than the job to Shawn Michaels, like you should have, you selfish prick. But please get into WWE's good graces. Make them think twice about this, because God, no, that can't happen. Dear God, no. That being said, it's time for the speed round, and in the vein of "Oh God, no," Marty Jannetty wants the wrestling world to remember him for sex. That's it.
I don't understand.
I I don't know what to say. Like, I'm gonna be honest. I put him in because Shawn Michaels is the greatest of all time, and Marty Jannetty was a definite part of his history. That's the only reason at all Marty Jannetty is newsworthy. But seriously, why? He was speaking to Bill Apter of Sportskeeda. Bill Apter is usually very good with interviews. This was the worst interview Bill Apter has ever had.
I believe that.
And like the only other thing of note is that there were complications with Marty Jannetty's surgery, and he says he's done.
Oh,
and
that's good.
He hasn't wrestled a match since 2018. But seriously, when you come out and say something that outlandish,
I don't think he's ever been known for something like that.
Oh, he has.
Has he?
Yeah, it was actually, I think, now I could be wrong on this. Do you remember when he was slated to come back to the WWE? This is around like 06.
Oh, yeah.
He got pulled for something. I can't remember if it was a sex scandal or for wellness violation. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was one of those two things. And I'm like, you want that to be your thing? Like, I know he's done some very questionable
I thought he just
things.
no-showed and they said no.
I know he's done some very questionable things, but Marty, seriously, you were a good wrestler in the 1980s. You could have been something had you just kept it together. Say what you want about Shawn. Shawn had the wherewithal to keep it together well enough most of the time.
Yeah.
We don't count that period in 01. Aside from that, most of the time HBK was at least fit enough to wrestle whenever he was asked to. But seriously, why? That being said, Sting says that AEW Revolution 2024 will be his swan song. Ben, are you sad to see the Stinger go, or is it time?
Both.
Okay. Like, I haven't seen his work lately. That's the only reason I ask.
Still doing pretty decently.
He's up there though. He's like 60. Is he not?
Yeah, like I'm gonna be sad to see him go, but it is time.
Cora Jade doesn't want to go back to NXT because, quote, it sucks and she's better than everyone. Ben, is she better than everyone?
On NXT roster? Yeah, probably.
See, I disagree. I think there's a certain champion that's around.
She's not on the roster, though.
Yeah, but still, I consider her to be a part of NXT, at least for now.
I don't. She's not on the roster.
Yeah. Pat McAfee hasn't resigned with ESPN College Game Day. Are we getting Pat back in the WWE?
Nathan, I'm going to defer this one to you.
God,
because I know how much you love Pat McAfee and how much you mark out over him.
It's true too. God, I hope so. He makes a gob ton of money though through ESPN and through his podcast, so I wouldn't be surprised.
But I mean, if he didn't resign.
His contract isn't up yet. Yeah. His contract is up at the end of this year.
Yeah.
Normally this would be the time when you'd re-up, but if you're in a spot where you can make a god ton of money, dear God, Pat McAfee, go for the bag if you can get it. You got a huge one with your you got a huge one with ESPN and with his podcast. God, I would love to see him back in WWE. I think that is his best spot for him. he brings an immeasurable amount of joy to me watching SmackDown. Yeah. I don't care if he's just an audience for one. I know he isn't, but
what was that? It was a choke slam, Pat.
Wow. Oh my God, John Cena's here. Where?
Yeah.
Oh God. It's so much fun. So much fun whenever Pat McAfee is around.
It's so much fun.
Crybaby Phil was backstage at Impact's Bound for Glory. Ben, with this and the news that they've signed Ace Steel, is Crybaby Phil Impact bound?
Probably.
Oh, God, I hope not.
Who really cares?
God, I hope not. AEW are struggling to sell tickets for a Chicago-based collision against Survivor Series. Ben, if you were AEW, would you have moved buildings and or states at this point?
No, mainly because AEW has generally always done well in Chicago, even before they had Punk and anything like that. So I don't see a reason for them to move. The only issue I think it is that the Chicago
they got long memories.
Dynamite is like the same week as Survivor Series, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So I thought it was for Collision, which does bad regardless.
No, it's for Dynamite.
It's for Dynamite. Yeah, it's same week as Survivor Series
at all.
It's same week as Survivor Series.
Yeah.
The thing that gets me though is Chicago is a wrestling city.
Yeah.
And it's a wrestling city because of Phil.
But here's the thing, it's still a wrestling city. If they can't get into the WWE Survivor Series, they're probably going to try and get into the AEW Dynamite, Dynamite, Rampage taping, and who knows, maybe Collision is going to be in Chicago as well. They're going to get into one of them. It's going to have to be a bit longer for them to sell out or sell more tickets that'll make it worthwhile.
The way I look at it, though, them losing Punk and the way they lost Punk has hurt them in Chicago.
Just put Sky Blue in there, put Colt Cabana in there, and you'll be fine.
Okay, Sky Blue maybe, but Colt Cabana?
He's from Chicago.
You'd put Colt Cabana there? You'd be fine?
I'd put him on the show.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I'd put him on a show before I'd put Punk on a show.
Well, duh. So it's time for a brand new segment. It's called Thank You, Captain Obvious / Well, duh. There are times in the news where our only reaction can be, well, duh, or thank you, Captain Obvious. These are a salute to those times, and definitely not an excuse for me or Ben to fly off the handle at the stupidity in the wrestling business. So today we've got just two. It hasn't been that stupid. First things first, Kofi Kingston and Ivar have been praised for their recent matches on WWE Raw. Well, fucking duh.
Yeah, it's almost like if you give people who can work enough time to work, they can get over.
Like, seriously, Kofi Kingston aside, everybody knows you have a problem if you can't get a good match with Kofi Kingston.
Yeah.
When was the last time they gave Ivar, or Eric for that matter, more than 10 minutes?
Or more than like a squash, or like more than a squash, or more than just running a lot of people over after their match.
Yeah, legitimately. 90% of the WWE roster, or any wrestling roster for that matter, can work their asses off. But it's almost like, if we give them time, they can do that? Yeah. Seriously, get your heads out of your asses. That's all I can say. Secondly, I've got Declan McMahon prefers Grandpa Vince McMahon without the pedo stash. Well, duh.
There's something here. So personally, I prefer Vince McMahon without WWE.
Which is fair. Totally fair.
Yeah.
But Vince McMahon with the pedo stash. I'm sorry, did you not just have a lawsuit, Big Vinny?
I don't know. I like it.
Why?
Makes me laugh.
Okay, besides that, like, does it serve
Well, he
any
wants
purpose?
pictures of Spider-Man.
No. No.
Just
We are
look at
not.
him.
No, we are not going to. No. No. I'm sorry, J. Jonah Jameson in his worst light looks better than that.
Yeah, but he's trying his best impression.
That is not a good impression of Spider-Man.
No, J. Jonah Jameson.
Okay, fine. That is not a good impression of J. Jonah Jameson either.
Okay, then he wants pictures of John Cena.
Hang on a second. Parker, get me pictures of shit. Yeah, it can work. Okay, I can see
Okay.
your point now. I can see your point now.
Also, I just think it's funny.
For me, I do not want a melting gargoyle, thank you.
After years of Vince telling people they shouldn't have facial hair, he grew a mustache. I think it's hilarious.
So it's now time for Wrestling Weekly, which is our weakest segments of the week. Ben, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna go first.
Okay.
So the reason I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna cheat, it actually goes back to a story because you were basically drinking during SmackDown.
Yep.
And you had asked
I wasn't
me
basically, I was very much drinking.
Yeah. And you had asked me to just send you a
Play-by-play.
live commentary, play-by-play, as to what's
text.
going on. Now, I didn't do that.
No, you didn't. It was rude.
Not because I didn't want to, but because the entirety of SmackDown was forgettable. Just in a vacuum of itself, it sucked away your time. I can maybe think of 2 good things about it and 1 thing that was good enough. Do you want to know what the good things were about it?
The first thing I'm going to say is I'm going to take a guess, and it was the LA Knight Paul Heyman promo.
That was the good enough thing. That was as good as it could be.
Yeah. What's the other?
So the Nick Aldis Adam Pearce stuff.
Oh yeah.
I like that, and I like the Cena promo. I didn't like anything that happened after the Cena promo and the scrum, until you got to the Nick Aldis Adam Pearce stuff.
Yeah.
But the Cena promo itself was nice. Everything else there, it wasn't bad per se, but it was weak as hell. Okay. If you go through SmackDown in of itself, there's not a moment that would pique my interest, bar those 3, where I would be okay writing it, because it just felt like it was just there, just existing in a vacuum in of itself. It felt like a late Vince era show, and I never want wrestling to feel like that again.
Okay. Makes sense. Well, I'd like to introduce you to my segment of Wrestling Weekly, Charlotte Flair. You know where she just walks out and does stuff?
Yeah.
Didn't like it. Stop giving her opportunities. Make her earn shit.
You know what's going to be funny? She's going to be in a situation where she's going to get another opportunity because she's going to whine and say, oh, you cheated with the bell. Oh, well, that's okay, Miss Flair. I, Nick Aldis, Tiddly Pip, am going to give you yet another opportunity for that belt. Yay! The entirety of the women, just in general, like SmackDown has not seen any sort of ascension or change.
Well, Ascension got released years ago.
Or anything like that. But you've got a bunch of female talent that you're not doing anything with. Why are you so intent on? Because I'm sorry, if it's not Damage Control, Charlotte Flair, and Bianca Belair, there's nothing for women on SmackDown. Now, Raw is okay because of the NXT tour, which I'm going to be honest, I sincerely love.
I know you do.
But seriously, what the hell, SmackDown? What the hell? You've got all this talent, but yet you build a division entirely around 5 people.
Yeah.
Well, technically 4 because Dakota's out right now.
Yeah, true.
It makes no sense. Do you want me to just add in the Charlotte Flair to the rundowns from now on?
I'm gonna have to come up with different segments at that point. So no.
Okay, but do you want the Charlotte Flair segment in there at all time? Even if we just put in the Charlotte
fine.
Flair question mark. Okay.
No, it's fine.
It's time for the return of one of my favorite segments. It's called God Damn It. Before you ask, this is definitely not a this is definitely not a point where I put it, where Santa Claus himself would vomit with rage at the wrestling industry as a whole. And but my problems are coming to a head with a certain company, and I can no longer hide it. So PWI Insider are reporting new details about why the company Impact is reverting to the TNA name. It was noted that Impact originally planned to make the announcement at Slammiversary, but it was pushed back, and it was finalized about 2 to 3 weeks ago. It was done at Bound for Glory. It is going to be effective starting January in 2024. The decision will unite the fragmented history of the promotion, who used TNA, Impact, and Global Force Wrestling as its names over its 20-plus year history. Some of the company's international partners and fans still preferred the TNA name and used it to refer to the company. They've noted new championships have been commissioned featuring the TNA logo. The current champions will use them once introduced on TV in January. Current storylines and talent are expected to continue just under the TNA name. I'm going to start this with something I'd seen. It was an interview that Mickie James had done. A hell of a talent, first of all. I've got nothing but nice things to say about Mickie James. The crux of the interview was this: she had wished that people would have got behind Impact the same way people got behind AEW when it was first starting up, sort of that grassroots thing. And I looked at that and I started laughing.
They didn't have the same names.
So,
or like,
well, the thing is, Impact started based off of one man's personal ambition to be the king of the mountain of a company. That was Jeff Jarrett. I don't care what you say. TNA, a bunch of its early run was all centered around Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett was somebody who I think WWE booked 100% correctly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Jeff Jarrett was never going to be the king of the mountain, top of the card, anywhere he went, unless he did it himself. Jeff Jarrett, for years, took promising young talent, like your AJ Styles, like your Christopher Daniels, like your Samoa Joes, etc., but they could never, ever be as big as Jarrett. That was a crux of Impact. That was why you could never get into Impact when they were first starting up, because Jarrett had control of everything. So don't come to me and say that you wish Impact could be the same as what AEW was. Say what you want about Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Cody Rhodes. They had ability. They could get to the top of the mountain of just about any company if they were given the opportunity to. And as much as it hurts me to say, you could make a case for them to deserve to be there. Not Jarrett. Jarrett did not go to the underground. Jarrett did not take guys like Maxwell Jacob Friedman and put them up on a pedestal. Impact, in its heyday, in like the 07, 08, 09, grew because of two things. The ascension of its good talent, who were never allowed to be top of the mountain, and the Knockouts division, which was miles ahead of what WWE was doing at the time. Miles.
Oh, yeah.
So, first of all, that in of itself is why Impact and AEW are two completely different things. Now on to the rebranding of Impact TNA. I'm one of the people who liked Impact Wrestling. Okay. I liked its grassroots nature. I liked its people. I liked the ability of being able to just go to Impact and watch people evolve and become the best versions of themselves. I really enjoyed that. And I think dropping the TNA, dropping the Dixie Carter melodrama, dropping the Hogan Bischoff drama, all of that was a fantastic move. So why the hell change it back to TNA? When you go through Impact's history, if you're really going to make a change to TNA, you're not doing it the right way. You're still going to have talents who are squandered in Impact and make their best stuff and become their best selves somewhere else. Look no further than LA Knights. Look no further than Cody Rhodes. Look no further than Matt Cardona. Those are just three of the names you could possibly use that have become bigger and better somewhere else using their gimmicks they got in Impact, because Impact did not have the reach, nor the money, nor the willpower to get them to that next step. You were going to have the people who make a booking decision of not having Josh Alexander, who is homegrown Impact talent, which is something rare these days. Really freaking rare. To not be your Impact World Champion and to go Alex Shelley. You're going a pure Vince McMahon route, and it's absolute bullshit. If you are going to do the whole name change from Impact to TNA, it's going to work for about 2 weeks. If you are seriously considering rebooting Impact, you have to look at getting rid of the management. You have to look at getting them to a major network, and you have to be ready to accept that if you're going to be fighting with your WWE and your AEW, you may or may not be able to get there. You have to offer something different. That's what Impact was. And TNA, I fear, is just going to be WWE light, AEW light. It's not going to be at all what you expect to be. To name change from Impact to TNA feels like you're giving up. And God damn it, Impact. I wanted to like you. I did like you for the longest time. I shield you at which I still think is one of the best you could have. And then you go and do shit like this for a short-term gain that's going to tank whatever you got left. God damn it, Impact.
You okay?
No.
Okay, now that you're done talking about the developmental impact, what's next?
Yeah, so I knew I was going to be doing this when I found out about the rebranding like late last week.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, also because I'm in a lot of pain right now, I didn't really want to think too hard about a topic. So we've been playing a lot of Spider-Man 2 recently. these last couple of days. And you and I both have logged many hours in wrestling video games over the years.
Yeah.
With this in mind, what is the problem, if there is any, with wrestling video games today?
Career mode doesn't have a long enough, interesting story that you can interact with multiple parts and get different outcomes. Everything's tough. Even branching stories seem to lead to the same place and ends with the same shit.
Yeah. So for me, I'm going to go a completely different route here. I'm going to go with why the hell are wrestling games annual releases now? Specifically looking at WWE 2K. Now, cards on the table here. I will buy the WWE 2K game every year. I will pay for the edition that gets me the season pass every year because I love the game. I love the gameplay. I know that's why they do it from a monetary standpoint. But when you look at the game year to year, 2K22 to 2K23, all the updates that they made to WWE 2K22 from a gameplay standpoint in this day and age could have been an online patch. All of the changes they made to my GM could have been a pretty decent patch. And they patched stuff in to my GM before. I know that there's something around talent rights and roster updates and a lot of other items in play from that standpoint. I get the possibility of having an issue where you continue to have somebody like a Sasha Banks in the game long after she has left that could cause issues. I don't know. But from a gameplay standpoint, it doesn't evolve year after year after year. And a lot of what 2K does, and it's not just with WWE, it's with NBA too.
I feel like it could be said about pretty much any sports game that releases annually.
But a lot of what 2K has done, and why I consider them to be the most guilty of this, is they will strip out things that have been in previous iterations of the game and bring them back as a new feature.
Yeah.
If you want any idea of what I'm talking about, my GM in WWE 2K22 versus GM mode in SmackDown versus Raw 06 or 07. Aside from that, look at Special Referee making a one-game comeback in WWE 2K14 and being promoted the hell out of.
Yeah.
I think we're at a point where if we can't release a product that is new enough or different enough to continue, other than money, why are you releasing it? On the flip side too, I think the problem with games like AEW Fight Forever, the biggest problem with it, as much as I don't find the gameplay to be fun in that game, it has the potential to be, but there's not enough content there to keep me coming back.
Yeah.
And it released with way too little content, even at a budget price. Way too little content. And I know they're patching stuff in bit by bit, piece by piece, which is good, but it should have never released in that state. So partially that's why, if you're looking at career mode, I think what you're hearkening to has a lot of merit too. When you look at what the best video games in the wrestling area are, there are three that often come up: Fire Pro Wrestling, WWE No Mercy, and my personal
Great
one,
story mode.
And my personal favorite one that I think dwarfs everything WWE SmackDown Here Comes the Pain.
Had an okay story mode.
I wouldn't say okay, I would say great. Because call me crazy. To your point,
Okay, crazy.
Here Comes the Pain had branching story modes.
So did
It
No
didn't
Mercy.
all lead to the same place.
So did No Mercy.
And Here Comes the Pain put in 3 different match types, introduced a weight system, while keeping your fresh and fun gameplay from Shut Your Mouth, with the only thing missing being the ability to jump off of the SmackDown fist. I think that's all was lost, and instead you get a bunch of new match types.
So what we're saying is to
Overalls,
make
a weight
WWE
system.
games better, let us jump off the SmackDown fist.
Okay, I would love to jump off the SmackDown fist again, but that's beside the point.
Oh, I thought that was your whole point you were making.
Like, SmackDown Here Comes the Pain felt big enough and good enough and ground shaking enough where you didn't need a new wrestling game for a long time. SmackDown Here Comes the Pain felt big enough and ground shaking enough where even if you had Shut Your Mouth, which had a lot of the same gameplay as Here Comes the Pain, it felt different enough and new enough where you had to pick up the next iteration, Here Comes the Pain. When you have a game like that, then yeah, please release it annually. But I don't think we've got that now.
Yeah.
That being said, Fire Pro is a completely different beast in of itself.
It's a completely different game compared to the others.
Well, it's a completely different game, and it's based around having a sandbox customization.
Yeah.
That's Fire Pro in general. You can make any shit you want.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a once in a generation game. Because how are you going to improve on everything?
They're just going to keep updating it.
Yeah. Exactly. And a lot of those updates are either free or comes with a small fee.
Microtransaction.
I wouldn't say a microtransaction because it is a fairly big patch that they put in.
It's still basically what it is.
Fair enough. But it's a big enough addition.
Yeah.
Like they will put in a GM mode on steroids and charge the same amount that 2K charges for a Bad Bunny character with some attires.
What are you talking about? That's free.
And some VC.
You just got to go on to character creation and look up what's the status, and boom, you got it for free.
You get the point, though. It's the principle. Why is 2K charging for that content?
Yeah.
The other thing I find an issue, speaking of that, is disc locked content. I am fine. I personally am fine with stuff like My Team and My Faction. It's a money pit that I dare not subscribe to. I get it. The issue I have is when you release attire packs or neutrons for wrestlers in that mode. I'm looking at you, Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner. And you don't make that available to players who aren't in My Faction. That's a bit of an issue for me. When you have Shawn Michaels' Degeneration X theme locked to My Faction, if people like What's the Status weren't out there, that's an issue to me because it's there. I use it. I'd used it before. Why the hell is something that's on the disc or in the initial game files locked behind a paywall? Why is anything attire related locked behind a paywall? Why do I need What's the Status to make a workaround? Why don't I have Dominic Mysterio Judgment Day 2023 as
You do.
a non-community creations?
Oh, that makes more sense.
If like I'll put it to you like this: if the Bad Bunny thing, the $13 Bad Bunny thing that they did, was an attire pack for all the My Faction things they had made up to that point, I'd be okay with it. Just flat out. If you were going to release all that stuff in My Faction first and then build it into the main game at a low price, like I would pay $15 to have the My Faction attires in the main game. That'd be okay. But you've got them locked behind a mode that I don't want to play, nor should I have to, because a lot of them should have been in the base game to begin with.
Yeah.
Those are my issues. You got anything else other than story mode?
No. I think that we can wrap it up here.
That being said, regardless of what I have said, if you haven't played 2K22 or 2K23, do yourself a favor, pick up 2K23. It is fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I guess we stay tuned for next week when my beard gets longer and yours probably gets shorter.
No, who knows? If you
That's
like
generally the way it goes.
If you like what we do, look at Degen Wrestling over on TikTok. We got a bunch of stuff. I've got my top 5 arm drags up there right now.
He loves the arm drags.
I hate the arm drag with every passing fiber of my being. Don't forget, comments on this, shout us out. If you want to be shouted out on a TikTok video or a podcast, we are right here for that. But this is Degen Wrestling. Thank you so much for it. And we are signing off right about now.